Part 103. After My Death, the Villain Blackened Again. Author, Ben Gong Wei Pang. Chapter 1034. This business circle is not the entertainment circle that the host likes. The words everyone says in the circle are also things that the host cannot understand. Therefore, most of these parties will not be attended by the host. Even if they participate, they will retreat within a short time. When Yanj came to the hall, everyone with a grinning look at her immediately stopped her voice with sympathy. Looking at the jokes one by one, they squinted at the words and looked at the men and women on the stage who were singing love songs. At the sight of the song, it is no wonder that everyone's eyes are different. It turned out that Ning Jin brazenly took Xiao Xiao to the party. The host of the birthday party was called Sister Chi this time. Of course, she didn't want her birthday to be smashed, so Chao Yanj beckoned, "Xin, come and sit with me. I almost lost my bra, hurry up and sit beside me so that I can transfer." Yanji passed a few steps, and someone made a seat for her. Chess sister is playing mahjong with 3 other people. Mahjong is applicable to all classes. Yanji knows that the chess sister is kind. Of course, she will not smash the field on the side of others, sitting next to the chess sister, and watching the chess sister's card wholeheartedly. Chess sister whispered to her, "Ning Er and the woman don't seem to have any endings. I heard that Ning Er has recently invested in a movie and would like to draw everyone together." Yanji nodded, well. Obviously did not take the words of chess sister in mind. Fan Lulu is a woman raised by Ning Er outside. Just after the host aborted, the woman swayed in front of the host with a big belly, and let the host rush out of the nest. Even if Ning Jin and Fan Lulu don't have any end now, they will still get together sooner or later. The host doesn't care about Ning Jin's private life, and nowadays, Song naturally doesn't care. Chess sister played a few more games, hurried to the bathroom, and gave up the position to Yanj. This clearly wants to do something for Yanj. Yanj quit, but had to sit down. The chess sisters' cards are not smooth, and there are only a few of the 2 million losers in the box. But after Yanj sat down, she didn't check any other dealers, but she went to her own dealer, and sitting down was Siwa village. So after these laps, the empty box around her was full of eyes. People next to her joked, "Is Ning Tai a frustrated casino? I'm going to Macau for a trip, maybe I can carry hundreds of millions back." Yanji also laughed, "The first time I played, I probably borrowed the good words of the chess sister." The matter of her own man and the actress did not mean anything. With a slight smile when talking to everyone, the graceful and calm temperament of the bone is really not something that ordinary people can learn. Everyone secretly compared the words with that of Fan Lulu. "I found that this original match looks much better than that actress. It's past 12 in the middle of the night, and Yanji doesn't really want to play anymore. The host doesn't like to sleep late, and Yanji's eyes are so sleepy that she can't open them anymore. She is now a big winner. She won all the other's money after eating 3 times. Do NT say, the opposite player changed the 2 dials. Cleaned up by her. She's going to go now, and it's estimated that this brand of friends has to complain about her. Although there is not much money, you can play mahjong." Everyone smoked, and the room was now in a state of dark smoke, and the song coughed a few times. A glass of juice was handed to Yanji's mouth. At a glance when Yanji was out, it was her cheap husband, Ning Jin. After My Death, the Villain Blackened Again. Author, Ben Gong Wei Pang. Chapter 1035. Yanji narrowed his eyes and said, "I don't want to drink fruit juice. Pour me a glass of boiling water, the warm one." When Yanj was talking, everyone was listening to this voice, and they were both looking at each other without any trace. Ning Ergen deserves to be noble as the juice of the song. It was strangely tight. What they didn't expect was that after the song said such a sentence, Ning Er didn't even pick a pick and said okay, turned around, just go and pour warm water. These two things really don't seem to be something. Everyone said sourly that her husband was really caring, and the song was also vaguely echoed. Ning Jin did not take long to bring a cup of warm boiling water and handed it to Yanj. Yanj took a sip, not too hot and not too hot. After she drank a glass of water, she handed the empty glass to Ning Jin. Thank you. Ning Jin threw the cup aside, and sat beside Yan Ji. I'm feeling lucky. The word smirked at him with a smile. Everyone said that I am a frustrated casino, please don't sit next to me, or you will squeeze me out of this casino. Ning Jin didn't speak. The light on Mahjong was very bright. Her originally white face was bright and translucent under the light, covering a layer of radiance. When talking to him, the end of her eyes seemed to smile and her eyes waved. Watching seems no different from her usual, but very different. The people around were joking about the young couple, and said a few words with a smile, and looked at the stage. But Fan Lulu took the microphone and sang the hottest flying butterfly. Yan Ji tilted her head and asked Ning Jin, I heard that you want to invest in a movie, have you decided? Ning Jin nodded, yes. Yanj, is this your heroine? Ning Jin didn't answer this time, just stared at Yanj. After the two of them got married, they said a handful of things, and they are not as good as they are now. I don't like her. Yanj was not silent, and she gave him a sideways smile with a smile. This night, because of such a woman, I was laughed at by everyone inside and out, even going to the bathroom. Outside too, several women are talking about the fact that I am using the resources of the entertainment industry to pimp you out of my room. When she finished, she stretched out her slender fingers and poked at his neck, with a smile on her face. Why, don't tell me that you really have a leg with her. The whole world knows I don't know. Ning Jin did not dodge. She has cold fingers. Touching his neck made his hair appear to have erected. He stared at her with a smile, narrowed his eyes, raised his eyebrows and said, just working with her, you just don't like it. Yanj got the answer he wanted, so he turned to obsessed with Mahjong and didn't continue to talk to him. After a while, I realized that Ning Jin was gone, and Fan Lulu, who was just singing a love song on the stage, was sitting on the side. When she saw the words, she smiled and said, the senior's card skills are really good. Yan Ji smiled at her, how many cards do you want to play? I just go to the bathroom, you come to play. He has given way to speaking. Everyone is losing almost no patience with big names, and it is rare to say that the song will give way. Of course, everyone is extremely happy. Went to the bathroom. Yanj did not go back, but stood on the balcony on the second floor to enjoy the cool. The smoke in the room was suffocating, and the eyes of the stingy people could not be opened. Taking a breath of fresh air, I felt better. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. After my death, the villain blackened again. Author, Ben Gong Wei Pang. Chapter 1036. Someone was approaching behind him, and Yanj was wrapped around his waist before he turned his head. A strong taste of wine was uploaded from that person. Yanj turned his head and looked at Ning Jin, who rested her head on her shoulder. The breath of wine slammed into her fair neck, and Ning Jin asked, did you come by car? The words sounded. The two have been married for more than half a year, but this is intimate, as if it was the first time. Yan Ji was a bit uncomfortable, and thought this guy was drunk, so he didn't push him away. Although Ning Jin had wine in his mouth, his eyes stared at Yan Ji's reaction in the dim light without a trace, and when she did not resist, he slightly raised his head and bid her ear beads to play. Words of song. This man seems different from the husband in the host's impression. She reached out and pushed him, there is surveillance here. Ning Jin didn't answer, but she didn't let go. He wandered around her waist with one hand, rubbing her waist with a thin skirt. He couldn't push his words, and couldn't push him away. He could only stare angrily at him. Let me go, what can people do when they see me? The corner of Ningjin's lips rose, and he signaled that the song should look forward. In the garden below the balcony, a pair of men and women were burning. It's a pity that it's a bit far away, who can't see clearly. Yanj took the opportunity to bite Ningjin's arm in an attempt to make him release himself. However, this man did not respond to the pain of shrinking his arms, and kept holding her firmly. The tip of his tongue teased her little ears, and the hoarse voice spit out the whine, "Be careful of your teeth." Yan's song struck him, "You are drunk." Ningjin's fingers touched her red cheeks, and eventually stayed on her fuchsia lips. Unlike the slight coldness of her fingertips, her lips were soft and warm, and the breath in her nose all fell on his fingers, feeling numb. Since his fingers spread throughout his body, he vaguely answered, "Yeah, I'm drunk." Yanj didn't resist anymore. She just let him press her half of her body on her body. She lowered her eyes and let his fingers touch her face. For a long time, Yanj said softly, "Ningjin, let's get divorced." The man hanging on her was obviously stiff. Unconsciously, she slowly continued to say, "You are obviously unhappy with me, so why not force yourself? The one named Fan Lulu, I used to know that she is very clean, and if you really like her, you divorce me. Chase her again, so peddle two boats." Before she finished speaking, he was suddenly pushed halfway and half pressed in front of a wall by one side. He pressed her all over her face almost sticking to her face. Her eyes were dark and oppressive. Feeling full, he interrupted the words of the song and sneered, "Muxian, dare you say something again, I strangle you." The most annoying thing about Yanj is this kind of person who breaks up and is violent. Whenever I say break up, I will kill you or kill your whole family. It seems that the overbearing president is actually a scum. The girls died in the hands of this scum. So when she heard that, she frowned instantly. Ningjin did not give Yanj a chance to refute. He bowed his head and kissed her lips. Yanj didn't resist, and bit his mouth after waiting for his tongue to break in completely. Let him be violent first, then. This time she gave a hard hand, and the blood filled her mouth instantly, but the man looked at her like a stimulating beast. It looked like a kiss, and she was desperately desperate. After my death, the villain blackened again. Author, Ben Gong Wei Pang. Chapter 1037. Yan Ji was disgusted at the bottom of his heart, and was about to raise his knees to go to Ningjin's second child, but at the next moment he let go of her lips, pinched her neck, whispered her head to her head and murmured, "You Muxian white-eyed wolf." After he finished speaking, he couldn't help but hate him. He put his legs up in one hand and pushed them directly into the air to be level with him. He stared at them, and asked viciously, "Are you a wolf?" Words of song. She's sure this guy is really drunk. Yan Ji reached out and patted his face. His strength was not strong, but his voice was clear, "I'm a white-eyed wolf." "What are you? Look at you. I brought Ziosin here in this place. I didn't ask you to settle the bill. You even bite me back, and you're just glaring at you." Ningjin's face was instantly taken 5 or 6 times by Yanj. He narrowed his eyes narrowly and stared at Yanj. The dark eyes seemed to ignite a flame, which would erupt at any time and anywhere. The partial song seemed to be unknowing, patted his face a few times, and moved closer, and kissed him on the lips. "Ningjin, tell me, what am I yours?" Ningjin pursed his lips. His facial features were more severe because of deepness, especially the thin lips and extremely sharp lip lines, which were both and ruthless. At this moment his lips were pursing, looking like he was on the verge of rage, and the facial features were obviously not stingy, but such indifference made people dare not provoke him. Seeing that he didn't answer, Song Yan laughed hard, raised his eyebrows by pinching his chin and asked, "It's great to be drunk, isn't it?" Her fingers were delicate, and the amount of energy holding his chin was not much, but he followed her fingers and was forced to raise his head. His lips lined up, his eyes flashed, but he remained silent. Yan Ji snorted coldly, and said with gritted teeth, "Scum." As soon as the words came down, Ning Jin's hand was loose, and she took the Song's legs back. Hanging in the air, Yan Song squatted down on the ground. Her bloomed, and her tears rolled out instantly. Ning Jin bowed her head and looked at the Song on the ground. The light in the room fell on half of his face, half bright and half dark. The expression on his face seemed to be complicated by the light. Yanj was sitting on the ground, her head was stinging with pain. She didn't respond by herself, tears had already been heard first, and the first flow had come out. Ning Jin stared, and then crouched down, hugging her in her arms. Yanj grabbed the clothes on his chest and wiped his tears, while rubbing, he choked and said, "Look, if my makeup is spent." Ning Jin. He thought she would justify her first. I did not expect that the first thing I noticed was the face that Yagan couldn't hit. Between her wine-like voice, although Ning Jin couldn't understand the woman's brain circuit, she glanced at her face. "No. Yanj, has the eyeliner been spent? I just accidentally shed tears. I did not draw a waterproof eyeliner today." Ning Jin squinted at the clothes on her chest and wrinkled with a black stain and a cold face, and said impatiently after she asked again, "No." Yan Ji breathed a sigh of relief, but immediately stared at Ning Jin with his teeth gritted. "Ning Jin, you are a bastard, your mother's is smashed. You quickly hit 110, and your mother will sue you for domestic violence. Will this happen? Ning Jin, one more thing, I throw you down." Words of Song. After my death, the villain blackened again. Author, Ben Gong Wei Pang. Chapter 1038. Yanj took a breather, and didn't plan to talk to drunk people anymore. "I'm going home, you tell everyone." Ning Jin didn't talk again this time. Yan Ji didn't worry whether he would be yawning or not, she was afraid that her eye makeup was ugly, and she buried her head in his arms. Ning Jin walked to the hall and said to Sister Chi, Xin is drunk. She and I go home first. Sister Chi, let's take a step first, and you continue to play. A few young people who had a good time with Ning Jin joked immediately that Ning Jin could not wait to leave everyone and go back to live overnight. All played together, Ning Jin laughed and laughed a few words with everyone, went out of the hall. The doorman had gone underground to drive Ning Jin's car. After waiting for a while, Fan Lulu chased out, "Ning brother, are you going back?" Ning Jin nodded, "I told Sister Chi to find someone to take you back. If you don't want to stay, you can tell Sister Chi." Fan Lulu's face was distressed. I and I are not very familiar with them, and it is not easy to speak, brother Ning, otherwise you hit me for a ride. When there is a place to rent, you can let me go on, and I can go home." The doorman opened the car. Ning Jin opened the back door and put the words on the back seat. He said to Fan Lulu, "Let's get in the car too." Fan Lulu was busy bypassing the car and opened the co-pilot's door and sat up. Ning Jin wanted to help Yanj close the car door. Yanj grabbed his arm. "You drank, whoever dared to sit in the car." It was over when something happened. "I'll drive it." He had already grasped Ning Jin's shoulders and got out of the car while speaking, and pushed Ning Jin to his seat again. "Be obediently fasten your seat belt, don't rely on the drunk wind." Ning Jin, is he drunk? He didn't know if he was drunk, but today she was obviously drunk. Yanj has opened the door of himself and sat in the driving position, squinting his rear-view mirror. Seeing Ning Jin motionless, Yanj got out of the car again, opened the back seat door to help him fasten his seat belt, and patted on his face again. "Have a headache for a while, I drive, you can rest assured." This time she patted his face with obvious effort. His face was sore and tingly, he held back and didn't reach out to rub it. Re-entered the car, Yanj asked Fan Lulu, "Where do you live?" Fan Lulu said busily, "I live on Jiangjin Road. The seniors found a place on the road ahead and let me down. I can go home by taxi, without bothering you." Words, okay. Fan Lulu, who hasn't hit a car for many years. Just to be polite, this woman won't really have to find a place to let her go. Fan Lulu looked at Yanj and it was not a good stubble, so she immediately picked up her mobile phone and contacted her assistant to have the assistant drive out to pick her up. As soon as the Yanj car was on the gas pedal, Fan Lulu rushed forward. Fortunately, he fastened his seat belt so as not to hit the window. The phone fell on his feet. Fan Lulu was bent to pick up the phone. Although he was MMP in his heart, he smiled and said to Yanj, "Senior, I have watched the fighting wars you played before. I wanted a senior's signature, but I didn't expect to be lucky to be sitting in the senior's car today." The traffic lights in front of the intersection, Yanj braked suddenly, Fan Lulu's body was thrown forward again, she now choked countless MMP, but can only continue to stare at Yanj. "Senior, everyone said you acted, even the back is a drama, and it's a pity that you don't act." You are listening to novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. After my death, the villain blackened again. Author, Ben Gong Wei Pang. Chapter 1039. Song, some people eat this bowl of rice by nature. Some people need the hard work to get it. I have a good life. I was born to act. But acting is just an amateur activity for me. In the same way, my family has a big career and a lot of things to deal with at home. I can't take hobbies as a serious thing in my life. Fan Lulu. She is so thick-skinned that she just boasted casually, this woman took it seriously. I also think that seniors are inherently the material of acting. What they act like, I really admire you very much. There is no need to admire. Yan Ji gave her a glance at her, I have no talent better than ordinary people. I think that the kind of acting in the entertainment industry is like my own. It is also a talent. Fan Lulu. She continued to envy and said, the predecessors did have a good life and a successful career, and they married a good man like Ning Ji. Yanj, what is the good life of marrying a good man? The good life of a woman is not earned by marrying a man, but by herself, like me, mainly because of a good father. Ningjin, are you right? Ningjin in the back seat. Yanj's car suddenly braked for a while, and a throttle for a while, and crooked left and right. Ningjin kept holding the armrest in both hands and never let go. I didn't understand the two women in the front and had a leisurely chat. I really regret letting this woman drive. Hearing Yan Ji's questioning, he immediately said, you drive well. Yanj is another throttle rushing forward. Ningjin's head almost hit the front seat. This woman. Definitely intentional. Yan Ji asked him in a leisurely voice, Ningjin, what do you want to say? Do you think I am very happy after marrying me? No longer following her words, Ningjin felt that her life had to be accounted for on her way home, so she immediately said, it's very good for me to marry you. Yanj got a satisfactory reply, and then giggled and laughed, then you remember what you said today, but don't forget, what kind of extramarital affairs will happen during the marriage with me. I will put you and your first after the rape. My parents left me my property, and buying murder was not a big deal. Another break, she said, it is cheaper for you to buy homicide and kill people. It is better to buy an AIDS person to spread the disease to you, so that you can taste what is immortal. Fan Lulu. Ningjin. So the next way, Fan Lulu didn't speak again. Yanj sent Fan Lulu to Jiangjin Street. Fan Lulu thanked her repeatedly, and Yanj waved to her, thank you, do NT thank me, why are you my little fan, right? Do you want to sign it? Just because there is a pen here, I will sign your clothes. Fan Lulu, already a big star. This skirt is more than 80,000 on her. It's not that they don't want to be more than 80,000, but think that more than 80,000 skirts have the woman's signature in front of her. It is because this woman has no sense of shame. She called the woman's predecessor in front of her just to be polite, but in front of this woman, she really took herself as a queen figure. Her face was too thick, and she was clearly not even the #1 woman in the entertainment industry. Acted passerby. However, Fan Lulu has already said everything. What can I do? Although there are countless MMP in my heart, I can only hold my nose to recognize it. After my death, the villain blackened again. Author, Ben Gong Wei Pang. Chapter 1040. Yanj wrote the host's stage name in the entertainment circle on the chest of Fan Lulu's skirt, and Fei Lun stretched out his hand to pinch Fan Lulu's face. The collagen is full of tenderness, and the mouth is so sweet. Point, don't run into bad guys so late. Fan Lulu, MMP. Such a stupid MRS Ning with ER Ning Ning. ER Ning really inserted a flower in the cow dung. When Fan Lulu left, Yan Ji was about to step on the accelerator, and Ning Jin, who was sitting behind him, put her shoulder on her shoulder. I'll drive. Yan Ji stepped on the accelerator, and the people behind him hit the seat. Yanj turned on the audio, found a very high DJ song, sang and roared, and went all the way back. When he got out of the garage and locked the door, Yan Ji turned around and walked away. After a few steps, the cell phone in his handbag rang. Yan Ji pulled out his phone and took a look. It was Ning Jin. He reacted swiftly, and Ning Jin was still in the car. She was busy unlocking the car lock, and Ning Jin got out of the car with a dark face. Yan Ji beckoned to him with a smile. I saw my little fan today. It is rare to have such a loyal fan. It is so high, I forgot that you are still in the car. Fortunately, you fell asleep without drunk, otherwise tonight I have to stay in the garage all night. Ning Jin ignored her hand and passed her without squinting, striding towards the villa. Yan Ji no longer cares about him. She turned on her cell phone, typing and sending messages while walking, and she also spoke from time to time. Ning Jin walking in front slowly slowed down, but he stood on the side of the road and waited for a while without seeing the song to follow him. With the water on his face, he strode back to the villa and never turned to look at the words. Song. Yanj pushed away from her room and found Ning Jin asleep in her bed. The two have been separated since they got married, and Yan Ji was surprised for a moment, thinking that she had gone wrong, and went out to take a look, because her room was right. Standing next to the bed, she pushed Ning Jin, wake up, you're in the wrong room. Ning Jin was motionless, and did not react as if drunk. Yanj muttered dead pig, went to the bathroom and took a shower, and then took a towel from the room opposite Ning Jin to wet it and wipe Ning Jin's face. Rubbing it, jabbing Ning Jin's thick black eyebrows. Scrubbing, dragging Ning Jin's cheeks again. When she helped Ning Jin clean her face, she had already played with Ning Jin's face. This guy was wearing a t-shirt, and it took the boss a lot of effort to help him take off the t-shirt, wipe his upper body again, and squeeze the muscles on him. Put the quilt on Ning Jin's body, and she went to sleep in the room where Ning Jin lived. Ning Jin, who was spitting his nosebleeds, was about to humiliate and wait. After waiting for a long time without saying a word to continue, he had to sit up and wanted to call and ask her where she felt the phone wasn't working. Go out to find, go downstairs in the restaurant, and go upstairs in the fitness equipment and audiovisual room. Still no one. Isn't this woman going out again? In the middle of the night, where can she go? However, it seemed that the car was not heard. Ning Jin settled down and returned to Yanj's room, thinking that she had already returned to the room, but looked around in the bedroom, but still did not see Yanj. Where did this woman go? Ning Jin gritted her teeth. Angrily back to bed again, exhausted of patience, he called her. After my death, the villain blackened again. Author, Ben Gong Wei Pang. Chapter 1041. No one answered the phone. No one listened after playing it a few times. Ning Jin simply went out and wanted to see if she could hear her ringing in the corridor. However, when she went out, she realized that her phone ringing came from the opposite door. He searched the whole villa up and down, even the public toilets, but he did not find his own room. Ning Jin stood at the door for a while before pushing in. Her entire body was covered with a quilt, only the fluffy back of her head was facing him. It's really in his room. Ning Jin froze for a moment, then took off her pants and strode over, got into the bed and took her into her arms. His body was a little stiff and a little stingy at first. The person in his arms was soft and the shower gel on his body was light and sweet. He put it on her back and didn't want to remove it at all. But how would she react? He waited for her to be awake, waiting for her to lift the quilt and push him. But wait till he finally falls asleep. Ning Jin didn't have the habit of sleeping. As soon as the light from the curtain came in, his eyes opened. But opened that moment and froze again. The man in his arms put one leg on his waist and one hand on his chest. No wonder he felt the illusion of being crushed by a big rock in his sleep, presumably because of her arm being pressed against her chest. Her head was nestled in his shoulders, her face was facing him, and with a slight peep, she could see her face close by. Without her heavy makeup, her little face was so refreshing that she could even see the tiny fluff on her face at such a close distance. The small mouth was rosy. She said that other people's faces were full of collagen, and her own cheek was also white and tender, making him look at it and wanted to pinch it. He thought so, and he did. She squeezed a hand and never felt addicted, and gently stroked her face. The fingers trembled and dipped into the bones, and my heart beat fast, even at one point, at this moment. He didn't dare move anywhere except his fingers moved across her face. Do not move. For fear of moving, you can't control the fierce beast in your body. Yanj reached out and grabbed her face many times. She always felt that something was crawling on her face. She couldn't sleep, and didn't want to open her eyes. She caught her several times and couldn't catch anything. He frowned and frowned. His head buried his entire face in his chest. Ning Jin waited for Yan Ji to stop moving, and then carefully, reached out to continue to touch her face. Without touching her face, she touched her little ears. Her ears are thin and small, rounded. He remembered that she hated her two round ears the most when she was a kid, and always kept pulling her ears with her hands in class, trying to make her ears bigger. He sat behind her, looking at the redness of her ears, but the stubbornness still looked round. She dragged for so many years, she seemed to drag. He squeezed her ears, and the corners of his mouth flew up involuntarily. The body was still in a state of restlessness, but he didn't eagerly want to do anything else. Just let her crawl on her own body with half of her body, and experience the throbbing feeling brought by her. Yan Ji's face was in his arms, apparently uncomfortable to sleep, and he rolled a few times on his body, opening his eyes stupidly, seeing Ning Jin close at hand, stunned, and stared at him with big eyes. You are listening to novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. After my death, the villain blackened again. Author, Ben Gong Wei Pang. Chapter 1042. Words of God are calling the chicks, who is the most powerful person in this plane. This time, the chicken cub simply said, there is no power in this plane. It's so loud and obviously lonely. Yan Ji was startled at the bottom of his heart, swallowing the sky beast. After seeing the devouring of the celestial beast, I can swallow a magic source tree that can destroy the sky and the earth. Yanj now has no idea how many times the psychological shadow of the celestial devouring has increased. Chicken, I don't know. Because the cub was in a bad mood, Yanj didn't have fun chatting with it. Although Ningjin was expressionless, Kxin was jumping wildly, and she almost broke out. He waited for her response. But her drowsy eyes stared at him for a long time without any surprise. Sushi was a bit tired with one hand, and she planned to sit up with him. As soon as he pressed his hand, he pressed it under his waist. Ningjin. He wanted to keep silent, but his body shrank honestly, and he groaned unknowingly. Yanji retracted his hand and asked him, "Did you break it? Should you hit 120? Ningjin." Yanji didn't look at his face, she looked down at herself who couldn't look at Kunwei, and looked at Ningjin, who was also undressed, wondering, "I slept you last night?" Ningjin did not nod or shake her head. Yanji thought that his silence was the default, so he had to say, "Sorry, I don't have any impression. Do you want to sleep back?" Ningjin was still silent, his lips curled into a line, his face expressionless. Yanji had to get out of bed, put on his nightdress out of the room, and go back to his room to take a shower. As soon as the song was gone, Ningjin immediately covered her eggs with both hands and hummed silently. Later, he just covered the egg nest and formed a shrimp, went to the bathroom, and rushed with hot and cold water for a while, only to feel that the pain had finally eased a lot. He didn't leave the bathroom right away. In the sound of spraying water, he was all in her head. She seemed different from usual. But what does she usually look like? His puzzled memories were not remembered at all. Two people have been married for more than a year, it seems like they have met a handful of times, and they spend more than one day together. He is busy, but she is busier than him. She started by taking care of her sick father, taking over the company, and appeasing her mother. Later, her father died, and she moved home with her mother for more than half a year before moving back. Even if she moved back, she would come out early and return late, soaking up in her company. He knew that she was particularly concerned about the company's affairs, and even arranged a bedroom for herself in the company. She has lived in the company for the past 2 months. He couldn't even remember what she used to be, but subconsciously felt that she is very different today. Why? Thinking of her words in the car last night. She wondered, could it be that she was eating Fan Lulu's vinegar? How is this possible? On the night of the wedding, she sat in bed with the post-marital agreements he told him, and he still remembers them well. She said that she didn't care how many women were outside him. The tone of her voice at the time, he still remembers it very well. Yanji sat in the restaurant and waited for a long time to see Ningjin slowly come down from upstairs. The man changed into a suit, because Sue's indifference caused an abstinence in his body. After my death, the villain blackened again. Author, Ben Gongwei Pang. Chapter 1043. Yanji tilted his head and looked at Ningjin. Ningjin, who had gone downstairs, did not look at the words, sitting in the position where he often sat, and the servant brought the breakfast up, and then he bowed his head and started to eat. Yan's song has not yet started. But she was not in a hurry. She put her hands on her cheeks and stared at the man across the table. Ningjin, who was full of gas, finally couldn't hold on under the scorching gaze of the opposite woman. Looked up and asked her, "How?" Yanj poked a small piece of cake on the plate with a fork, stared at him and said, "You were drunk last night." Ningjin gave her a cold glance, "Huh? Yanj, I brought you back by car." Ningjin, she was so embarrassed to show off her car skills. Yanj, I also sent your good friend Fan Lulu home. Ningjin, huh? He put people down on the road, and she said that Fan Lulu was her little fan. Yanj, by the count you owe me a few favors. Ningjin glanced over the cake that almost poked her into a pile of scum, so. Yanj, my company has encountered a problem. Ningjin didn't answer this time. He stared at her, trying to see her true intention of saying this. Yanj sighed, and his shoulders were extremely depressed. My dad has high hopes for me, and I want to let this family business carry forward in my hands, but I really are not this material. I haven't done this for a year. It's impossible to figure out the status of the company, and the mind is like a mess. Ning Jin opened her mouth, but did not speak. He lowered his head, raised a spoonful of porridge, but did not put it in the mouth. He heard her say, "Ning Jin, I'm powerless." The sound of endless frustration and discouragement seemed extremely sad and frustrated. He stared at her dregs plate, and the spoon in his hand fell into the bowl again. "Do you want me to help you?" The fork of Yanj kept tinkering with the saucer, and she said discouragedly, "Will you help me?" Ning Jin did not respond, but instead asked, "Aren't you afraid that I will take advantage of the secrets of your company and annex your company?" Yan Song looked up and looked at him. "Will you?" Ning Jin thought about it and said, "I don't know." Yanj looked down, then, "Can you help me find a way? I think I've been very irritable lately, and I feel like I'm in a dead end. Every day in the company is like a year, but I have to force myself to be this overbearing president." Speaking of this, she suddenly laughed. In the novel, it is said that the overbearing president is more powerful and powerful, but after 1 year of my own experience, I felt suicidal in depression. Ning Jin, the only person I can call for is you. Ning Jin looked at the words, her lips curled into a line, because Sue's face was cold and looked extremely unemotional. Yanj said, "Ning Jin, what the do you think? Why don't you talk? You owed me a lot of affection last night. You don't know, you're drunk. I wiped your body. Face." Ning Jin felt it afterwards, as if finally she knew why she was different from before. She hadn't said much before him before. Even if she encountered any difficult things, she wouldn't say it in front of him. Instead, she would rather ask an outsider and never tell him her husband. She blends things and won't let him in. She had never spoken to him like this. Speaking discouraged, he bowed his head to eat porridge. "I don't want to help me." Take a bite and mumble again, "My husband is not only used to sleep, there are no other functions at all, what is the use to come?"